Hello, everybody. I am here today with Jared Carrizales, who leads the team at Heroic Search, a link building and content marketing firm based out of Dallas, Texas. And I just want to say one that has some of the best copy on their website and one of the most cohesive brands that I have the pleasure to experience on a day-to-day basis. So that's just great. Jared has been in the digital marketing space for over 10 years and has worked on campaigns such as small one-person shops all the way up to Fortune 500. When he isn't on the phone with the team members' clients, he enjoys cooking on the grill or traveling to a new country. Things, hopefully, that at the very least, hopefully you're still enjoying cooking on the grill these days. But welcome, Jared. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. And we may not be able to talk much about traveling, but we can go over any recipes that you want. That is totally fine.
Excellent. Well, basically, one of our biggest forms of like self-care and excitement right now in my family has been, what are we eating? What are we making? So I'm totally with you on that. Maybe, after the podcast, you can give me some good recipes, what you're loving right now. Yeah. Awesome. But in the meantime, why don't you share just a little bit about your story and how you got here?
Sure. Yeah. So me personally, I started back in the digital marketing game a good 11 plus years ago now. And, I started out back when Upwork was Odesk, right? I got on there as a consultant, started gaining more work, really learned my way around SEO, got good at it, got recurring clients, and ended up getting picked up by an agency at the time. And then after that, started Heroic Search, and that was 7+ years ago. So it's been really great. We started out as a full service SEO company. And about 3 almost years ago, we shifted to full link building mode. We found that most of our clients came back to us from that or for that. And we had built out a lot of relationships with editors and bloggers, journalists to help facilitate a lot of that work and, combine that with a lot of manual outreach. And we just, we were able to do that system very, very well. And so, again, a lot of people came back to us for that. And so fast forward to now, and we have people with a lot of PR and outreach experience on staff, content creators as well. And like you mentioned, worked with a lot of different companies in varying industries and sizes. And so, yeah, it's gone pretty well so far. Yeah.
Excellent. I just wanted to kind of pull 2 kind of interesting pieces from that. One being that when you finally decided to niche down, you niched down into a specific service, it's sounding like, rather than a specific, vertical or industry. And I think that's a really cool choice. If we have time in our many questions that I want to pepper you with, I'd love to get into that a bit more. Yeah. But also just I want to speak to how magical link building is, because to me, it's just this kind of like crazy mix of PR and content marketing and strategy and all this really cool stuff. But we'll get into that a little bit later. In the meantime, I'm curious. I think this is a relevant question for everyone right now. We're going through this pandemic. Stuff is a little bit crazy, shall we say. But how has COVID-19 shifted things for you guys in the past few months?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, a lot. So for us in particular, we have seen the biggest shift is probably within our sales efforts, and obviously trying to keep everything that we have, which we have so far been able to do, thankfully, and also get more. So we have shifted our sales strategies in that we're going to different places to fill that sales funnel. So one thing that we have found that works incredibly well, far more than I would have ever known, if this had not happened, is the emergence of these virtual conferences, right? And for me, so I'm looking at conferences every day now to get on virtually. A, they're mostly free now, and B, I'm the kind of guy that has 50 tabs open at one time, so I can get on one of these conferences and the Slack channel and really like look people up and be a little bit sneaky about it. And okay, cool. Well, how can I weasel my way into a good conversation with this person and talk to them about maybe their needs or if they understand link building and and just strike up a very genuine conversation and see where it goes from there. And so that's been the biggest change by far for us. And we have, ironically, we have more irons in the fire now than we did 2-3 months ago because of having those conversations in those forums. And so it's very possible, hasn't happened yet, but it's very possible that we will come out with some growth in this COVID era because of some of the changes that we've made. It's possible. It hasn't happened yet. We're kind of keeping our fingers crossed. Every day, in this environment is a new challenge. So yeah, that's definitely changed a lot for us. And I hope that there continues to be these conferences that we will be able to attend, online, even after this wraps up, because it is such a good, almost like more efficient way of networking in some ways. So yeah, that's probably the biggest way that it's changed for us.
That's really excellent. You're not the first person I've spoken to that has said that virtual conferences have been really big for them recently, which I think is kind of funny because even though we're in the digital space, I think there was a little bit of disdain for virtual conferences before all of this happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I'm just curious, you mentioned that you actually have more irons in the fire, so to speak, and it's because of this approach. What is it about this approach? Is it that, you're able to kind of research a little bit more and get a little bit more personal, or what is it about this approach that you think has, perpetuate isn't the right word, but nurtured this additional interest or connection?
Yeah, I would definitely say the research is first and foremost the biggest way that it's been different and helped. Because again, I can go to, LinkedIn profiles, I can look up their role, and knowing the personas, if you will, of Heroic Search that, we really excel at, closing and just building great links for in the first place. I can, look at that particular person in their profile and say, okay, well, that would actually be a great fit, for us and them to work together. So let me see if I can strike up a good, genuine conversation and see if they do have any link building needs. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to emphasize here the authentic conversation, just being very important. I know one of the last interviews I did, Lois Kofi, the woman I was interviewing, mentioned that she's actually received some very abrasive outreach in this time. I just want to clarify, if anyone listening to this podcast is in doubt, that I don't think that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about, you're doing some research, but you're taking the time to learn about them, to care about them, to start a conversation that is rooted in genuine value on both sides.
Much so. Very much so. So we have two big qualifiers when we're talking about bringing in a new client. Obviously, one has to be budget for obvious reasons, but the other is the personality of the company and the decision maker or makers that we would be working with. They need to, be okay with a little bit of a risk and be available, because if we have a journalist over here that needs to make their deadline in 2 hours, we need a decision from, the company. So it's very important that they are willing to do that and don't just take the attitude of, okay, Heroic Search, go ahead and get it done. And we'll be over here, whenever you finish, and then we can get on a phone call. Doesn't really work that way. We definitely, need a partnership because building links and outreach and PR in general is a very, symbiotic relationship. We need to have access to decision makers. So yeah, it's definitely very, very needed. Yeah.
And that's something that I can relate to a lot. It makes a lot of sense to me, definitely. So let's shift the conversation a little bit towards link building. So I'm assuming many of our listeners don't understand what this is in the way that you guys do it. I certainly, despite it being a big old marketing world and me thinking that I was very knowledgeable, it made me realize that I knew very little about this as a particular service and strategy. But it's been very, very interesting and intriguing learning more about it. I'm curious whether you could just break down a little bit how it works for me and our listeners. What is link building?
Yeah, sure. So in very, very simplistic terms, earning a link to a specific URL or website from somewhere else. This is the hyperlink that someone clicks on and goes to this website. That is viewed as a vote or a credit of sorts in the way that Google and even Bing, they look at where you should rank, where a specific URL should rank in search results for specific queries. And so having a multitude of quality, relevant links, I cannot put enough emphasis on relevance, is key to actually having this content get in front of other people. This could be anything. This could be a blog post. It could be, a white paper, a money page, which is the equivalent of like a service page, right? Those are the pages that you want to rank based on whatever your, customer journey is. Because ideally you're creating this content for a reason. It does fall in a place of or a step in this customer journey. And you do want it to rank, right? To meet the right person at the right time. So these links, when pointed to specific URLs and specific domains, they help build that equity up and give it more strength, more power to rank for certain things in the search engine. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that at a base level, what you're doing is creating, and once again, relevant. What was the other word I want to say authentic, but relevant. What was the other word you
quality.
used? Quality, right.
Quality,
so
yeah.
Quality and relevant links between two sites basically acts as a vote for the one that's being linked to in a search engine's eyes. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Now that's, again, very, very simplistic terms. But yes, that is essentially what it is and what we do. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's expand on that a little bit and dig a little bit deeper. Now that we know, I think it's really good to kind of describe in a sentence what it is and what the value is. Yeah. Anyway, content, copy, that's what we aim for in terms of messaging. But I'm curious, so who is this a good fit for? I know you've niched down to this service in particular, but assumedly, you've talked about personas, et cetera. Like, who is this strategy a good fit for, and what sorts of problems does it solve for them?
So I guess I'll answer that in two parts. One in our own kind of target audience, and another in terms of who could benefit from link building. So in terms of the latter, who can benefit from link building, really everybody, unless your website is just like a brochure resume type of website. Everyone else that is trying to generate revenue from a website really needs link building. It's arguably just as important as content. In fact, Google lists content and links as two of the top 3 things that they look at when deciding how to rank particular URLs. So really everyone can benefit from it. In terms of our own target audience, we work a lot with SaaS companies, software as a service companies, as well as a lot of agencies. We do a lot of white label work. And so they find, both of those parties actually find that very useful, largely for the same reason. Link building takes several people to do well correctly. Without, obviously there's a lot of people out there that do it incorrectly with, software and a lot of spam and just very, very, very low quality, if not completely unhelpful links in the first place. And so we will, having our team, having our processes in place, help give them muscle to what they are already doing, the SaaS companies and the agencies themselves, but don't really want to bring on 2 or 3 or more people to actually execute a full link building campaign. So those are very much so, the companies that come to us to actually get some of this work done. They're already doing the on-page SEO and the technical SEO and the ads, they're doing those things. They have that in place. But link building still to this day, eludes a lot of companies in terms of practice, methodology, and just staff in general. It's very, very labor intensive. Yeah.
And forgive me if I'm mistaken, but it sounds like some of the people that are necessary for this process to work effectively, it's not just having a team. You know, you've mentioned like journalists and outside connections and other people in the world. That's why you actually even mentioned that you have PR specialists on your team now. So I'm hearing that it takes a lot of energy and work, not just within the company, but in terms of reaching out. And I'm curious, with such a wide net of different kind of industries and different people that you guys serve, verticals, so to speak. How do you make the connections? How do you know which connections you need within which industry?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that question is why so many agencies of varying kinds have niched down to specific industries, because they can have a little bit more repeatable process in terms of who they're, contacting, regardless of even if they're a, development shop or, design, anything like that. It's just easier to kind of work in one industry. For us, we use our relationships to, reach out and, hey, we have this good piece of content. Do you have anything going out that this would be a good fit for in terms of, to mention or to cite? Anything like that. We use those relationships, which we have developed over many, many years, and definitely helps in terms of meeting deadlines and building these links. We use those in conjunction with manual outreach. Manual outreach has been and probably always will be, the crux, the backbone of getting these links built for the clients and building them on time and building them well. So we use both the relationships and manual outreach. Now, we've had some very unusual industries and websites that we've worked with. So to give you an example, in the past, we've worked with, some of the weirder ones. We've worked with a beekeeper, no kidding. She has a brick and mortar store as well as an e-commerce store, and wanted, as if that wasn't hard enough, wanted these links built to pretty commercial pages, because that is where the buyers go to buy. And that's very hard to pitch. And it's hard to pitch when, you're trying to sell honey. And it was very difficult. But in those instances, we lean a lot more on the manual outreach side of things, because we do our due diligence when it comes to prospecting. Who would be probable linkers? Who is talking about, honey at the time? Depending on the time of the year, we reached out to a lot of, Jewish-oriented websites because there was a lot of that was her biggest time of the year to sell during, things like, Ramadan, things like that, Rosh Hashanah, because they wanted those products so much. So we tried to gear our outreach and our timing to go that way. And it worked. It was very difficult, but, we have worked with some very difficult industries before. That's why clients come to us, and that's fine. We'll find a way to make it work for sure. Yeah.
That is excellent in terms of response. That's really cool. So what I'm hearing is that it's a mix of connections, which, if I'm hearing and understanding correctly, it sounds like the more projects you do and you do a good job for, the more that network is kind of extended. And of course, people as content producers ourselves are very aware that when someone is writing on a particular topic, having valuable references and resources to cite is actually something that we seek. So it sounds like there's a win-win opportunity there, which perhaps extends to offering value through direct outreach, which is funny that both of us say this as content marketing firms, because this is something that, we tell our partners and clients all the time, which is that if you're looking for speed of connection and action, nothing is better than direct outreach, because it allows you to do the screening and reach out directly, as opposed to, you have to do a lot of fiddling and observing of market connections, which often takes direct outreach anyway, to be able to get people to come to you very, very quickly. basically. There's
And,
time that it takes.
and a lot of that is exactly why people come to us in the first place, because imagine doing that. We have clients that have quotas of, 100 plus links every single month. And if it takes 100 emails to get 4 or 5 links, which is pretty standard, you're talking about a massive amount of prospecting, filtering of prospects, and outreach and negotiation, not to mention nurturing those relationships. So it's a lot of work. And in the companies that do understand that, that's why they're like, oh, no. We're just going to get someone that we could trust and kind of hand this off to a little bit, and let them kind of go for it. So yeah, for all the same reasons, that you mentioned, it's a lot of work. And that's exactly why, we have built out these processes to help with that and lean a lot on those relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, processes and relationships. Oh, you're speaking my language. No wonder Celine was so, she was like, oh my God, say drop everything and like check out this website. And I want to rant about this when she first met with you guys. So I'm very curious, as people who have done direct outreach, whether it's for, guest posts or a variety of other things or just, straight up connections and potential sales with limited information available online. How do you screen big prospects lists? Like, do you just accept that some of them are not going to be a good fit? Or, I don't know if this is some big secret. If it is, you can say, and we can move on. But I'm curious. That's a challenge that we have all the time is we can build a list, but making sure that it is a relevant list, even sometimes, with the internet at our disposal can be challenging. I'm curious how you overcome that.
So, without going too much in the weeds for no other reason than time, we filter out by a variety of ways. So let's say we go out and we can get pretty quickly, usually within seconds, we can get a prospect list of, 1,000 or thousands of URLs. We'll go through and filter out, the completely irrelevant URLs, which, Facebook, YouTube, Yellow Pages, stuff like that, that we're not going to reach out to for obvious reasons. We'll filter that stuff out. That takes a lot out of our list. And then we will go through and maybe filter by some metrics. If it's a brand new website, it has a low score of XYZ. A lot of people use domain authority, things like that. And then we have a little bit more of a finalized list. We're about halfway there. We put that in some tools that we have and look for email addresses. Okay, well, or phone numbers even. Sometimes we do phone outreach as well. Of those, let's say 800 that we have left over, we have contact information for 500 of them. Okay, great. Let's go through, do a spot check of those 500, which ones are relevant, which ones aren't. We may sometimes prioritize the ones that are, what we would call high value targets. So very, very authoritative websites. These websites have a lot of weight. And so we'll put those aside and reach out to those either first or last because we want to investigate the author. We want to investigate the website a little bit more. Write a very, very customized, email or script for a phone call, if you will, because it's worth it. So when you put all that together, that is the basic process. In terms of relevancy, so relevancy is king for us in terms of links. Through our studies and our research, we have found that relevancy in terms of link building weighs way, 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 way more than anything else, any meaningless metric that you can come up with. And so what we have done just in the last week, we have built a tool that we go through, and it's got questions that are weighted for different importance, all based on relevancy. And we split up these questions into, they're relating to the domain that could be linking to us, the page that could be linking to us, and somewhere in the content paragraph that could be linking to us. And we score this with different questions. And that gives us this kind of cumulative score of relevancy, if you will, that tells us, all right, it's one thing to have this list, this prospect list be good and okay, we'll reach out to these 500 people. But if half of them are irrelevant, even if we get all the links, is that really going to help? No, of course not. So we whittle it down even more using that process, that methodology to help us not only make better decisions in who we reach out to, but the effectiveness of the overall campaign, right? So that is huge for us. We've gone through and done our own calculation of data and links based on the subsequent rankings of the links that we have built to certain URLs. And more often than not, the average is between 5 and 7 of our clients' competitors' links that they have built compared to our one link that we have built, because all that due diligence has gone into place, right? So if, our client and their competitor is ranking at number 3 and 4 for the same keyword in Google, very, very often they will have many, many, many more links than us, but we have chosen our links much, much more wisely. The effectiveness goes a long, long, long way. Yeah. That's kind of a long-winded answer.
No, that was great. I don't know if you could hear me or see me quietly taking notes. I was just like, I'm just going to write this down. And just for our listeners, so, I just want to reflect and just share, back at a high level what I got from that. Because interestingly enough, some of this does follow our own process, which is, reinforcing, because it's not a core part of our business, but we have done a lot of outreach over time for a variety of different reasons. But basically, we found the exact same thing. It's really easy to build an initial list without any real concern for relevancy, just within an industry or within a topic or et cetera. And what I'm hearing from you is that first you filter out the absolutely irrelevant, non-fits. Then you filter via metrics, which you didn't really elaborate on, but I know some of the metrics we have looked for and kind of filtered from include company size and sometimes revenue, if you can get it, and kind of things like that, which are basically measurable and trackable. I'm seeing a nod, so I'll take it that is within the ballpark of what you guys are looking for as well. Then you use tools to find contact information, which by nature eliminates a certain percentage. And I'm curious whether you guys accept, info at style, or whether you're always looking for a real person.
Yeah, so it's always a real person first. And then we will, depending on a variety of other things, again, primarily relevance of said website, then yeah, we will, reach out to the info at, or even contact forms on the website for sure. That does slow the process down significantly, as you can imagine, and reduces the chances of getting a response back significantly. So we do usually leave those for last. But yes, those are definitely things that we look at as well. I should probably also mention that some clients come to us with, they know that every link that gets built is going to help them in the search engines. And that's their goal, to rank in the search engines as high as possible. There are also clients that come to us that want more of the PR side of things. They want the traffic that can come from being in XYZ website, right? Your entrepreneurs, your Inc.com, Forbes, right? There's actually not very much link SEO benefit from getting placed in places like that, because many of those websites do what's called a no-follow link, which means the search engines don't credit the link going to your website. But they can be very good for traffic and revenue, essentially, depending on the context. But so there's two really different types of clients that will come to us. Sometimes some more that want the traffic, others that want the rankings, and that's when the relevancy comes into play, the quality, the quantity, come into play. Both parties want revenue. It's just a matter of, okay, we're going to go about it a little bit of a different way. So most PR companies miss out on the link equity that's over here. And most SEO companies that are doing link building, which is not actually a lot, miss out on the PR side. There's value in both, and both need to be looked at when you're building these prospect lists for sure.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And it never fully occurred to me the difference between, ranking on Google versus direct traffic from other trusted sources. So thanks for pointing that out because I think that that's clear and relevant. Just to kind of wrap up, my summary of your process here. So at this point, we filtered out a whole punch. At this point, you suggest doing a spot check of the list for relevance and prioritizing high value targets. Both things that we found great success in. But I just want to reflect back and say your approach for relevancy, which is data driven. And I love that. Now, it's based on your own past data, which is great. But even if some of our listeners don't have those massive amounts of data, I have found that creating the constraint, it never occurred to me to do it for this, but creating the constraints of kind of assigning values and weighting those values on its own is super, valuable because within those constraints, you will improve and understand based on decisions you make that don't quite work out, where that's not working. Or as you get more data, you can weight those more appropriately. But even just, we've been talking about COVID, and I know a lot of people are probably struggling with decision fatigue right now because there's just so much changing and going on in the world. And it's funny because I actually heard about a method like this when I was researching some content I was writing on decision fatigue. And basically, this is a way, which kind of makes sense because you guys are making massive amounts of decisions that are super, super important in terms of this relevancy. And it can be dangerous to rely simply on the expertise of a person to make kind of like organic decisions over and over and over again. I don't know if that organic's the right term there. And what you're doing here is you're using that expertise and that data and all of your specializations basically to build something that will continue to function even if you yourself are somewhat exhausted, is what I'm hearing in terms of making the decisions as an individual. Is that... Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to some degree, we need to have collectively as a team at least a little bit of a process down to get the job done. We have clients that want us to build 30, 40, sometimes 50 links per month. And when you're talking about, if you need to send
massive amounts of contacts.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you need to send 100 emails to get 4 links, I mean, it's a massive, massive amount of links that need to be built, forgetting about all the tactics that go along with that, because the tactics are based on the brand constraints and the brand itself, right? So yeah, we need to have a little bit of a process to go through to be able to not only get the results eventually, but get the job done in the first place. There's no way that we can just say, all right, here's a 50 link order and get to it. We need to have a little bit.
Oh gosh, that just that makes my head spin at the thought of how much work that is. Holy cow. 40 or 50 links a month. Holy cow. So I'm glad I moved this question out because this has just been such an amazing interview that I doubt we're going to get to everything. But one thing I noticed while I was going through your site is that you actually charge per link. And, I'm thinking if that's 40, 50 links a month at the rates that you're charging, that can be quite massive, which is okay as long as you have that ROI there. But I'm really curious, how did you come up with that pricing structure? Like, how do you determine the value of a link?
Yeah, that's man, you hit it on nail on the head right there. So we have really, really kind of shook up how most agencies and link building agencies specifically charge by the link, the ones that do. So first off, it's not my favorite thing to charge by the link because with in the wrong hands, that is incredibly manipulative. And agencies can say, okay, we built this forum link or this blog comment link that is going to do absolutely nothing for the overall goal of the client, but still count it. And so it can be a very abused way of pricing. But what we have done is we have actually priced it out. First off, we don't do any of those things. Let's be clear about that. But we have priced it out, these packages, these tiers, if you will. There's 3 tiers in our packages by industry. So, for example, the legal industry, anything medical, right, it's going to take a massive amount of resources to be able to build those links the gatekeepers you have to get through during outreach, the paywalls sometimes that are up on these sites just to be able to access them. Massive, right? Compared to the lowest tier, right? That's going to be your beekeepers, right? To use the earlier example, those are going to be those. It's not as competitive. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the links are going to be easier to build. Most of the time they are. But it means that, one link will probably go a lot further because you're not going up against, to use the legal example, you're not going up against a million law firms in one city, right? Where, one link will be the equivalent of, 10 of the beekeeper links because the competition is just so lopsided, right? And so that's how we have priced this out. There was a lot of research that in building these packages that looked at the hours that we spend, in certain industries, and the average amount of orders or links per order that come in based on industry as well. And obviously the relationship too. Everything was really taken into account to come up with these. And it's actually been more successful than I originally thought it was. It's very easy. It's easier, I should say, on the sales side to sell these packages, especially when we are able to show the client what we can do. Because, selling link packages is just, it screams of kind of ickiness. And the link building world is like, forget SEO. SEO is just kind of, the snake oil and magic dust, and it has that kind of reputation already. And then when you say just link building, it's like 10 times worse. And then you say link building packages, oh my God, it's 20 times worse, right?
When Celine came to me and she's like, I just had a great call with the link building company. Like when I say I don't understand what link building is, it's because I didn't understand what ethical, strategically driven, critical thinking. I had heard of link building, Yeah.
So we have, the packages have made it easier to sell. And I think I calculated just a few weeks ago, 85% of people that order one package, they always come back. So, and there's been people that order, I think our highest is 30 plus packages now. These are, and that was over almost 3 years. These are non-contract type situations, but we're definitely still, it's a little more transactional. All right, you get, the quota is 10 links that you're giving us. Okay, we'll go and build those. But there's still on internally on our side, there's a lot of service that goes into it. So we run a lot of these links through our new relevancy score, that we've created, run them through our processes, right, to make sure that they're actually going to perform. Because contract or no, doesn't matter if those links don't perform, they're not going to come back and get another order. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter if they're an agency or a SaaS company or you're a beekeeper, right? I keep using her as an example. I need to tell her about this interview. But but it doesn't matter. If we don't do a good job, then they're not going to come back, right? And so we kind of created these packages because it was very easy to digest from a buyer's perspective. And it also, we lay out right there on that page, that you looked at, we lay out the methodology. There's no secret, in terms of how we do this job and tactically or otherwise. And so it's very important that our clients know that. And so we don't rely on semi-meaningless metrics to, we do kind of keep an eye on that, but we don't price that out. That's a very, very common way to price out link building packages is, okay, domain authority, 30 plus or 70 plus, my take is, wouldn't you always want to get the best link possible? Why should that be limited by budget, right? So that's the route that we take. We average between 40 and 50, domain authority and domain rating in our links that we get. So usually once clients see that first package that we do a trial package of 5 links if they want to do that to see how it is to work with us and whatnot. And once they see that, that final product, usually they, again, 85% of them usually come back for more. A lot of times it's an increase in the amount of links that they want because they can see those tangible results usually just from 5 links. So it is a little bit on the icky side when you say link building packages, but it's a significant amount of service-based process that goes along with that internally, on the back end for sure. Long answer to a relatively short question. So.
No, but really good. I love when, people are willing to kind of get into, okay, this is why we chose this pricing structure breaking down, because in the world of digital services, there is a million, maybe not a million, maybe I could probably categorize it into 3 rough categories of pricing approaches. But there are like rabid arguments in each camp about, what is better or worse. And my main question that comes up, so, you definitely show in your content that your focus is on ROI-based campaigns. Like you said, that's what drives people coming back. And something that really appealed to me. But you also said you don't use useless metrics. So I'm curious, do you use any metrics to, prove ROI? Is that something you get asked for? Do you have a process or structure? Or is it really just people see, their sales going up and can clearly trace it back to you?
Yeah, it's both. So we do use metrics internally. But, Google doesn't care what a domain authority is. That's a proprietary metric by one company, by Moz, right? They could care less about that. They care about what's good for the user, which is, relevance first and foremost, and usability, right? So those are first and foremost on our mind. And I think because it's even easier for agencies to sell the metrics, the line items, that's what they focus on. And okay, that's fine. But we still, even though these packages are a little bit transactional, we still we view it as a service still, because if there isn't ROI there is no reason they're going to come back to us. And if the links are crap, they're damn sure not going to beat their competitors, in the rankings, right? And that's our job. At the end of the day, no one wants links. No one wants rankings. They want more money. That's it. They want more money. So that's our end goal. And the links and thus the keyword rankings are a means to an end. It's important to get just really good, relevant links. And we do use metrics to help enlighten us and get the full picture, but they absolutely do not 100% influence our decision making. We use relevancy first and foremost, like I said, but the extra ancillary type of information as well, like metrics, for example, or traffic, domain authority, things like that. Yeah, it's all important.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing, if I'm understanding correctly, is that ROI is a value that drives your decision-making, how you set up your processes and you set up your approaches and your relationships, rather than a very specific set of metrics that you can point to prove your success. Like I'm hearing that it's a little bit complex to kind of draw that direct line, but that it drives your decision-making process in such a strong way that it's evident to the client. There are some metrics that you use and pull up, but really it's about that kind of driving principle for your company rather than like, oh, look, we look at this number and then this number.
Right. That's exactly right. And to be honest, a lot of prospects that we have that contact us, they don't like that. They want a number. Okay, Heroic Search, we want you to reach out only to domain authority 30 plus or 60 plus. And, we have taken on clients like that in the past, but we do let them know that kind of means nothing. You can have a really, really crap website that is domain authority 65, right? It's crap because it has no users. It's, the links are junk for whatever reason, and it's an inflated number, and you're not going to get any value there. And that is part of, again, how we qualify some of our clients, because they, at the end of the day, they need to know. They need to understand the very even basic knowledge of SEO and link building. Because if they don't, then we're left having to defend a lot of things that should really be known, or worse, left at, the growth manager or marketing manager's own devices of, they think that they know and can direct us on exactly what link needs to be built. I mean, that's just not how it works, right?
Oh, gee, never have experienced that.
Yeah. So it's all encompassing. Again, I don't want to dog metrics too much because they are important, but they are only important as an ingredient in the entire recipe, right? You don't make a meal out of one spice. You use a lot of different spices, a lot of different foods and ingredients to really put it all together. And when a company hires us, whether it's for a long-term monthly campaign or a 5-link package, doesn't matter, our fates are intertwined. They will not reorder or re-up on the contract if we don't perform. It's as simple as that. It's not about giving a line item of domain authority 30 or 40 plus. It's about them, again, getting money. They could care less about the links. They want money. That's it, right? And so it's our job to have them get to that end goal as easy as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would go so far as to say that, you talk a lot about the transactional elements of what you do, but at the heart of what you're describing and the work that you do is that trusted specialist, trusted consultant is what I'm hearing, where you need to, explain the basics to people so they understand the value in your decision-making process. But ultimately, it's about using metrics to make critical decisions and intentional decisions based on your expertise and experiences and et cetera, not just the metric. And I would go so far, and this is just a say thing, not something I read anywhere, to say that for me, that's partially what separates someone who is good or even great at something from someone who truly excels, is that someone who's good or great can take kind of an element and improve it. But someone who excels can observe that element, make intentional and often creative decisions around it, and understand how that might impact the end result, which I would consider to be different.
Absolutely. And make changes around that as they learn, because this works too, right? Whenever we saw how important relevancy was, we knew that had to be part of our process. Like, we need to build a way that the entire team can understand relevancy and be on the same page with relevancy, because relevancy is so subjective, right? And so, we built this tool to help get all of us on the same page and build more links that are winners, really. Because not every link is a winner. And this tool helps really get everyone on the same page to have that percentage of winners per order go up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And to the tune of needing a fraction of, I think you said like a ratio of like 1 to 5 or something like that for other people's link building that doesn't incorporate that. So that's really amazing. Now, I just want to check in. I have 3 lightning round questions, but we are at the end of our time. Do you have an extra 5 minutes or do we want to skip them? Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So first question, what is it that gets you up in the morning that is not coffee?
That is not coffee, man.
It's not just coffee. Yeah.
What gets me up in the morning? Well, so first off, my favorite day of the week is Monday, because I usually work a little bit during the weekends. Then when Monday rolls around, I'm like, all right, everybody's back doing their thing and they're on Slack and I got a ton of emails to answer. Woo, yeah. It's so weird, but I like that. Because in the weekends it's just totally dead and like I feel all alone and I just have to do like real work and not talk to anybody. But what gets me up Tuesday through Friday, is I just, I'm the guy that still, 11, years later When I land a link, I'm like, oh yes, got one. Even if that's, number one on a quota of, order of 200 links or something crazy. Like that's oh yes, let's do it. And then as soon as the link goes live, I like check it 2 seconds later. Okay, did the rankings move? No, of course they didn't move, right? But I'm gonna check anyway. So I love
Oh yeah, I feel that.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I can definitely relate. Like when you have a really, really awesome team, like they really feel like it's really exciting to talk to them and hear their thoughts and to have them at your disposal to connect with. And I vibe with that real hard.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, awesome. I think this leads well, considering you mentioned you work most weekends, this leads well into our second question, which is what is the number one thing that you do to preserve your wellness?
Oh man, does drinking count? No, just kidding. It's funny you mentioned the team because we're really close. I love our team. Even though ironically I have met in person one person on the team currently because we're so spread out. We're all over the world. But we still, we're always on the phone. We're always on Slack talking about not even work stuff. I mean, we talk about personal stuff and our life and our relationships and the RPG games we're playing, right? It's ridiculous. And so that helps me a lot to feel whole. And I think you need that kind of relationship when you're talking about a business and practice that can be incredibly abused on behalf of the client. It's important to have people on the team that are of the same mentality and ethic. And the fact that we can talk to each other about pretty sensitive and personal things sometimes, as well as still get the job done, is very, very, it's very warming for me. I love that. And so on a philosophical view, I would say, our team, it definitely helps me, preserve the wellness. Physically, I mean, I try to do what I can to eat right, work out regularly, although that's very difficult when you're stuck at home. But
feel ya.
I used to work out like 3 times a week, and now I'm down to like once every 10 days. It's awful. But so yeah, in a perfect world, those are the things that I do, and it helps very much. I lean a lot on the team, and vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really cool to talk to another fully remote team because a lot of people until recently still had some form of office, even if it was like kind of remote. But I was just like, wow, only one person. And then I thought about it and I was like, of our team of 8, I think I've only met one person physically also. But we talk to them all the time. I mean, likewise, as I'm sure anyone, and we get a lot of questions about hiring. So any of our listeners who are curious, like use your global connections and opportunity to build the team of your dreams because it does make a difference. What I'm hearing from you, Jared, is that in this industry, which we touched on, we didn't go too deep into, but I think most people are somewhat familiar with kind of those black hat techniques. And, you mentioned it really is important to have people with the same values. With us, we found, much like you, the people we work with, our lives and our businesses become so intertwined for a time because we go deep rather than wide, that even just as a founder and leader, being able to hand things off with trust, knowing that the people that you work with have the same values, that you can trust them, that even knowing that if something's going to go wrong, that you can just be honest and authentic with each other is just, I mean, it's such a gift. If I move on from this, building another team of the same intensity and awesomeness will be something very strongly on my mind because it keeps the loneliness at bay. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're right about the team and being on the same page. Our kind of official, unofficial motto is we create digital marketing campaigns that help the client succeed, but also make the internet a better place, right? Because if we're doing the latter, then the client is going to be successful. Leaving aside that we're making the internet a better place, right? And so every link that we build, every piece of content that we create, every email we send has that, kind of mantra threaded throughout it, because if we're doing that, then it's going to lead our decisions in sales in the right way, in hiring the right way, in executing a campaign the right way. It's going to make everything correct, at least, philosophically and from a reputation standpoint, it is, that guides us for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely say, our vision has recently shifted slightly, but it was really to build mutually supportive communities. And lately we've shifted that to using marketing for the greater good. And that is, it's simple, but just so important in terms of creating, consistency around the actions of the team, just being in line with that value. I think it's really important. Okay, but one last lightning round. We're getting into it a little bit more, but this is all just so great. So what is the weirdest habit that you have that contributes to your success?
Weirdest habit. So you're going to laugh, but this is totally true. It's not sleeping. Yeah.
Please elaborate.
Yes, I will. So I'm an odd duck in that sleep is it's not a waste of time, but man, it's a waste of time. I've never been a good sleeper anyway, for a lot of reasons, but I also don't really like the fact that I am in bed for whatever amount of hours and not being productive in whatever way. It doesn't even have to do anything with work necessarily. And so I have found that having unusual hours, sometimes if I have this itch or this, okay, I'm on it, I'm ready, I could put in a couple more hours at 11 p.m. I'm going to do that. No problem. That actually helps me, my personality, substantially. Our project manager would completely disagree with me in every single way, because that's just how he is, right? But that has really excelled my own productivity. I'm the type of person that I will work 4 or 5 hours a day, but work 7 days a week so that I can have a little bit more of time to myself. Or if I want to go, go to the cinema, go to the movie theater at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, you know what? I'm going to do that. And that's going to be okay. Because I'm going to work Saturday night when everyone else is doing whatever they're doing, right? And so I just, not having that need or want or whatever you want to call it to sleep. Everyone has that need, I guess, but not having that, it's helped me to have some really unusual working hours, which has honestly, propelled my own productivity in a different way, especially the late nights, because I'm a morning person. And so if I do have a late night and go to sleep at 2, my body doesn't let me sleep past like 7:30. And so I'm up again, ready to go. All right, cool, done. 4 hours, no problem. Let's do this, right? So yeah, that's probably
I'm so envious.
That's probably the weirdest habit, if you can call that a habit. I probably, for 80% of the listeners, that's not really what you're looking for, but yeah, that's definitely mine. Yeah.
Well, if I can maybe extrapolate something that I'm hearing in that could be helpful to people like me who do not function well on like 4 or 5 hours. Like I've had to cancel. It's been super impactful, not in a great way, but it's also forced me to deal with the issue. But I've had to cancel basically whole days of meetings because I just couldn't operate at the level that my business and those meetings needed me to do because I hadn't slept enough, not through lack of trying. But what I'm hearing is that you've observed kind of where your energy patterns are and notice that sometimes you have energy and no distractions late at night. And what I'm hearing is that you've leveraged kind of those windows of opportunity to create something that allows you the flexibility that you need.
Absolutely.
You know, like I am kind of the opposite in the sense that I would rather constrain my work hours to a small period of time, which means no movies on, you know, Monday at 1 p.m. or et cetera. But that also means that if you try and contact me on Thursday at 1 p.m., which is my like dedicated day off during the week, basically, that you will not be able to encounter me at all. So I would say that that's actually a similar practice, even though it looks different, which is that I've discovered how I like to work, and I block my time out accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's key. You have to know what works for you. That is absolutely key. And yes, it does just so happen, you know, that if I'm feeling up for it and ready to go, then I have learned that I need to use that. Okay, I'm wide awake. It's 3 a.m. And you know what? And I'm kind of privileged in this way, but the entire team almost is up and they're working. So, all right, I'll get out of bed. I'll do this. No problem. And I do. So it does help in that way. Okay, one super quick thing that I will say that's completely different, weirdest habit. I love to travel, and traveling to a new place, which I guess, you know, you opened up with that in my own habits, but that really invigorates me to be in a different environment and be able to just really hone in on work, or be able to sit in front of my laptop for an extra hour or two. That helps. It's a different environment. I feel just more invigorated, right, to get stuff done, and it's a huge help. So that may resonate a little bit more with some of the audience. So that'll be the answer B to that question. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the answer B. I will say that it does not bother me at all if you're sharing something that's against the grain, because not everybody works the same way. And we all need to hear the tidbit or the gold nugget that works for us. And that can be found in the strangest place. Also, I have never fit in anywhere. And I don't mean that like, oh my God, woe is me. I mean that I'm just a very unique person, and I've embraced that. So just own it. It's awesome. Yeah. All right. I have used up a little bit extra of your time, but it was so good. This has just been amazing value. I know you told me to rein you in, but everything you said has just been super valuable. So I kind of didn't. Why don't we just wind up with you telling the audience how they can find out more about them, you know, where they can check out you, you know, the company, any offer, anything you might have for them, if that's the case.
Sure, yeah. So you can find our website at heroicsearch.com, HEROIC, SEARCH.com. We do actually have an offer right now with the new relevancy scoring test that I mentioned. We are doing a free kind of evaluation of a few of the links that go to the homepage from other links to give that kind of relevancy score in comparison to a competitor of their choosing. So, you know, if anyone wants to come to us, you know, listening to the podcast, hey, Jared, here's our homepage. Here's a competitor we want to kind of see how we stack up against. We're happy to do that and use their relevancy tool to let you know how relevant your links are compared to those competitors. That's exactly what we do in-house. So more than happy to extend that offer, which, you know, kind of a small sample is completely, totally free, to, you know, again, network, see if link building is something that they're interested in, and then kind of go from there. But absolutely check out, you know, the website, case studies that we have. And obviously, if anyone has any questions or wants to brainstorm anything at all, I'm always up for a good discussion and networking in general. So definitely let me know. My email address is Jared, Jared, @heroicsearch.com. Don't hesitate, you know, whether it's a question or inquiry, anything at all. Always here.
Excellent. And just from a, you know, totally third-party perspective, I will say, please go to their website, if only to see their awesome brand and their copy and the value of what they do. Because as, you know, a company that builds websites for people, not just, you know, the cohesiveness and, you know, the funness of the writing, but also just the clarity in terms of how you break down what people can expect, and just your layout navigation. It's all very good. It speaks for itself quite strongly.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. Awesome. This has been great. Okay. So to all of our listeners, as always, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I know this interview has certainly brightened up mine. And also, as always, I've just been liking to say, since we've been in these crazy times, but also even if you're not, I don't know if anyone right now isn't, just if you're not having a great day, I hope you can find a few moments today to create a better day for yourself, even if it's just a little bit, whether it's finding something to be grateful for, or stepping outside your door and taking a breath of fresh air, you know, even if it's just your apartment hallway or condo hallway or whatever. Just, yeah, wish you well and take care.